Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, husband of Queen Elizabeth II, father of Prince Charles, and defender of the British monarchy, dies at 99. Representatives of the federal government and striking resident doctors locked in a meeting in Abuja at this hour. Senate Committee on Health disagrees with the presidency on its conversion of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to the Presidential Steering Committee. In international news, India's COVID-19 infections deaths hit record high. And in sports, Tokyo imposes new virus measures ahead of Olympic Games.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The husband of Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Philip, father of Prince Charles, has died at the age of 99. The Duke of Edinburgh, Britain's first gentleman, has worked hard to shepherd the British monarchy into the 20th century, even though it was still encrusted the trappings of the 19th century. His mission changed somewhat with the transformation of the monarchy, as was upstaged by scandal, and was regal wedding were followed by sensational divorces. The prince decided his role was then to help to preserve the crown itself. He married the future Queen Elizabeth in 1947. His death on Friday was announced by Buckingham Palace that he passed away peacefully. Philip has been hospitalized several times in recent years for various ailments, most recently in February. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 87 new coronavirus cases in 14 states, pushing up the total national figures to 163,581. NCDC also says total number of recoveries now stands at 154,005 after 217 patients were discharged on Thursday. Lagos posted 22 of the 87 new cases, while Rivers hosted 18. Cases recorded in the rest of the 12 states ranged from 9 to 1. Death toll remains at 2,058. A Senate Committee on Health is sparring with the presidency over the recent conversion of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to the Presidential Steering Committee. Committee Chairman Senator Yaya Oloriegbe said during a public hearing on a bill seeking to establish a federal medical center in Adamawa State that the Senate was not consulted by the presidency before making the move to convert PTF to PSC. He said it is unclear to the Senate what would be the operational mechanism of the PSC. He said the committee will invite the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health to answer some questions about the conversion. Some of the issues on which the committee would like to be informed include the content of the conversion and how the steering committee would work. Permanent Secretary Abdulaziz Abdullahi says his ministry has noted the Senate's concerns and would ensure proper steps are taken to provide the information needed. Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has called for tough military action against bandits. El-Rufai says bandits who are terrorizing Nigeria have lost their rights to life under the Constitution and must be wiped out. He said government must identify and deal with non-state actors and others challenging the existence of the country. During a town hall meeting on national security in Kaduna, organized by the Ministry of Information and Culture, El-Rufai said, quote, "The bandits are at war with Nigeria and there is no other way to approach the current insurgency but for security forces to take the war to the bandits and recover forests where they are occupying," end quote. The governor says security forces should be increased and be well equipped to deal with the insurgency, adding that the judiciary must also be decentralized to serve justice. Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, is currently meeting with executives of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, to plot a way forward in resolving the issues that have caused the union to begin its industrial action. The resident doctors are insistent on continuing the week-old strike, even though the federal government decided on Wednesday to start paying outstanding salaries and allowances owed to the doctors. The union is demanding immediate payment of all salary arrears, including those of March, for NARD members in all federal and state tertiary health institutions across the country. The union says its doctors have not been paid in more than 4 months. It says its members in Abia are owed 20 months, while those in Imo and Borno are being owed 5 and 4 months' salaries, respectively. It is also demanding an upward review of the current hazard allowance to 50% of consolidated basic salaries of all health workers. It also says outstanding COVID-19 inducement allowance must be paid as well. The union is also asking for review of the hazard allowance it says has remained at 5,000 naira for the last 30 years. A stolen Nigerian Ile-Ife artifact has been recovered in Mexico and has been returned to the Nigerian charge in the country, Dr. Yakubu Dadu. Dr. Dadu handed over the artifact to Ministry of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Yama in Abuja on Thursday. The minister praised the Nigerian embassy in Mexico for its efforts in recovering the artifact. Says there is need for a more secured border to prevent a future reoccurrence of such theft. Oyama also lauded the commitment of Nigerian envoys in recovering the country's stolen possessions. The minister also heaped praises on Mexico for its cooperation in ensuring the artifacts was returned to Nigeria. He said there is need to sensitize customs officials at borders to ensure national heritages are not stolen in the first place, so there would be no need to start negotiations for their return. The recovered Ile-Ife artifacts were stolen from Nigeria and intercepted in Mexico, where Nigeria's former ambassador to the country, Aminu Iyawa, noticed the artifacts displayed at the airport in Mexico. He expended some diplomatic energy to establish the origin of the work. Once he confirmed it was stolen, he engaged the Mexican authorities and prevailed in convincing them of its origin. That effort has now led to the return of the object. There is a plan now to present the artifact to the Minister of Information and Culture with the Mexican ambassador in attendance. After that, the artifact will be handed over to the National Commission on Museums and Monuments. Coming up, African stories. Commemoration of genocide against Rwanda Tutsi held around the world. And later, international news. India's COVID-19 infections deaths hit record high.
You are watching AN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Shipping traffic has been moving swiftly through the Suez Canal for more than a week now, after authorities managed to successfully refloat a grounded giant container ship that was stuck in the canal for 6 days. Now, Egypt wants to expand the canal to avoid future shipping disruptions. Correspondent Adil El Marouki has more.
The Suez Canal is 200 kilometers long. It is mostly a man-made water channel with natural lakes in between. Ships can navigate in only one direction for almost 2/3 of that journey. Expansions introduced to the canal in 2015 made it around 250 meters wide and 24 meters deep. It's enough to allow the biggest ships in the world to pass. But the grounding of the Evergreen last month proved that the canal is not big enough to immediately engage with a ship that big. To bring the ship back in position, Egypt heavily relied on tidal waves. It also needed more powerful tugboats than the 150-ton capacity ones it owns. Suez Canal officials say they're buying what will be 2 of the biggest tugs in the Middle East. They're also studying plans to widen the canal and possibly make it a 2-way water channel. During the Ever Given crisis, the Suez Canal authorities said it might need to unload some of the ship's 223,000 tons of weight, but it lacked the equipment to do so. The Egyptian president has given directives to purchase ships equipped with cranes to be always standing by in case a similar crisis emerges. Buying mega equipment is the easiest part of the lessons learned from the Ever Given grounding. Widening the canal, though, is much more complicated. It requires tens of billions of dollars and many years to dig. And it's also not clear if global trade volume will be growing fast enough to make this expansion program financially rewarding.
United Nations General Secretary and other world leaders have joined in Rwanda's 27th commemoration to mark the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. The horrible events lasted for 100 days till July 1994. Rwanda Broadcasting Agency's correspondent Ghislaine Mugwaneza reports.
In his message to Rwanda, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda remains as the most horrific event in recent human history.
On this day, we honor those who were murdered, we reflect on the suffering, and we recognize the resilience of those who have survived. As we join in solidarity with the people of Rwanda, we must take a hard look at today's world and ensure that we heed the lessons of 27 years ago. Today, around the globe, people are threatened by extremist groups. We saw what happened in Rwanda in 1994. And we know the horrific consequences when hate is allowed to prevail. Preventing history from repeating itself requires countering these hate-driven movements that have become a transnational threat and continue to push for policies that fully respect all members of society. Rwanda experienced one of the most painful chapters in modern human history, but its people have rebuilt from the ashes. The people of Rwanda have shown us the power of justice and reconciliation and the possibility of progress. On this solemn day, let us all commit to building a world guided by human rights and dignity for all. Let us all commit to building a world guided by human rights and dignity for all.
On this day, the African Union also organized a ceremony of the 27th commemoration of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa. The African Union has been organizing this event for 10 years. The chairperson of African Union Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat, reminded Africans and the rest of the world that the tragedy happened in Rwanda should never be forgotten. He also said that in these last 27 years, Rwanda promoted unity and reconciliation. Moussa Faki Mahamat has urged Africans to eradicate divisionism that still exists in some countries. The ceremony of the 27th commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi was also held in Geneva, Switzerland. The ambassador of Rwanda to Switzerland, Marie-Chantal Rwakazina, commended all those that participate in keeping genocide memories. She said that UN did not manage stopping the genocide, as well as mentioning that there are people across the world that still deny the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi.
Le négationnisme est la dernière étape du cycle de tout génocide.
Denial is the last stage of the genocide, and it is a sign that another genocide is likely to happen again. Today, we see an increase in the denial of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. When we look at it, we see that as time goes by, those who deny genocide are more active in denying the genocide. Many of those who deny the truth live in the cities and capitals of Western countries in Africa and make extensive use of social media in their activities.
Et africaine, et utilise largement les réseaux sociaux.
During the ceremony, it was also said that the first weapon to prevent genocide is to bring justice to the victims. Between 2017 and 2020, Rwanda issued 1,145 arrest warrants for genocide perpetrators in 33 countries around the world. Therefore, those countries have been asked to comply with the requirements in order to arrest those perpetrators. Ghislaine Mugwaneza, reporting for RTV.
Benin Republic is heading to the polls on Sunday. Protests broke out this week in several towns in the country, mainly in opposition strongholds, as tensions built before the election. One person was killed and 6 injured during a protest on Thursday, when government soldiers opened fire at young demonstrators to clear protesters in a flashpoint town 3 days before the presidential elections. A local health official says gunshot victims were admitted in a hospital, with 1 dead from a live round and 6 with bullet wounds. Critics say the election is already tilted in incumbent President Patrice Talon's favor after his government's crackdown on opponents. Most of the country's opposition figures are either living in exile or disqualified from running in the election. Reports say President Talon's opponents had blockaded a major highway in a central town before troops fired tear gas and shots in the air to disperse them. When we return, international news. India's COVID-19 infections, deaths hit record high. And later, sports. Tokyo imposes new virus measures ahead of Olympic Games.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. India is already battling a second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic as the country reported another high record number of nearly 132,000 new infections and 780 deaths on Friday alone. As the world's second most populous nation, India reported the biggest daily increase since mid-October. The country's overall caseload now stands at more than 13 million, making it the world's third highest after the United States and Brazil. India's total deaths from COVID-19 has risen to 167,642, a tad closer to Brazil. Sao Paulo's Education Secretary has hired 5,000 mothers of students attending municipal schools in order to help enforce COVID-19 safety protocols as schools reopen in the country's biggest city. The government is also using the exercise to mitigate unemployment in the nation's second biggest city. Correspondent Paulo Cabra has the story.
Elisângela de Moraes has 2 children in the São Paulo Municipal School, and now she's working here to help to keep it safe for her children and all the other students.
My work here is to ensure protocols are being followed. We help the children with their face masks and remind them not to touch their eyes. And the kids are following the protocols. We should even congratulate parents because they seem to have learned well.
Elisângela is part of a contingent of 5,000 mothers that have been hired by the city of São Paulo to help safeguard COVID-19 protocols as municipal schools reopened with limited capacity amid the pandemic.
The other mothers of children from our school get a feeling that it will also be safer for their children if it's also one of the mothers from the school that's caring for them.
São Paulo schools hiring mothers serves a dual purpose. It helps schools enforce COVID-19 safety protocols and helps these women earn some extra money in a time of high unemployment.
I am a homemaker who only had some occasional work, so this is a good opportunity for me. It's coming at a very critical moment.
But São Paulo's civil servants trade union opposes the move and any school openings for that matter.
It's important to fight unemployment in the city of Sao Paulo, but using this to keep schools open without the proper conditions only shows a lack of responsibility of education authorities.
There's no way to ensure 100% safety from COVID-19, but these mothers seem to be doing their best to allow the city's children to return to their classrooms.
One person has been confirmed dead and 6 others injured in an open gunfire at a cabinet-making plant in Texas. The gunman has been taken into custody. Bryan Police Department has confirmed that 4 of those wounded in the shooting rampage at Kent's Moore Cabinet, who were in critical condition, were rushed to area hospitals. Kent Moore Cabinet is a warehouse-sized facility at an industrial park in the city. Although police did not immediately identify the suspect, he is said to have been a former employee of the cabinet company. Investigators say they are not yet sure of the motivation for the suspect's deadly outburst at his former workplace in East Central Texas. The trial of former Minnesota police officer Derek Talvin continued on Thursday, during which a doctor confirmed that George Floyd died from lack of oxygen during his arrest. Dr. Mark Tobin testified that Floyd's breathing did not slow down enough for the drugs he ingested as he was being arrested to have been a factor in his total loss of oxygen. Prosecutors are building a case against Derek Talvin to prove that the former officer's use of excessive and unnecessary force resulted in Floyd's death. Meanwhile, Talvin's defense team is building a case to show that some painkillers in Floyd's system when he was arrested may have caused his death. The trial is in its 2nd week and is expected to last for at least another 2 weeks. The defense team will begin presenting its case next week. North Korean leader Kim Jong-Un has told his citizens to prepare for hard times ahead as the country may face food shortages and economic instability. North Korea has shut its borders as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. It has also halted trade with China, the countries that provide its economic lifeline. Shutting its borders against China means trade with the country dropped by 80% last year from an already significantly dropped levels in 2018 when the UN expanded sanctions against the country for its nuclear program. It has been reported that North Korea restricted imports of staple foods from China last August before cutting almost all trade, including food and medicines. There had been months of reporting as of last October that the North Korean people were struggling. UN Special Rapporteur on North Korean Human Rights, Thomas Ojo Watana, had earlier warned that a looming serious food crisis will lead to malnourishment and starvation in the country. Up next, sports. Tokyo imposes new virus measures ahead of Olympic Games. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, Japan has announced restrictions in Tokyo to curb rapid spread of a more contagious COVID-19 variant ahead of the Olympic Games. The country vaccination drive has slowed, and most residents of the capital city of Tokyo still have not been inoculated as infections rise daily. Many of Tokyo's cases have been linked to nightlife and dining. 25-year-old Florida State former football player Travis Rudolph is facing murder charges. An arrest affidavit has been shown. Rudolph was involved in a scuffle with his girlfriend hours before he fatally shot one man and injured another. He's being remanded in jail facing 1 count of first-degree murder and 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder. The case now goes to grand jury. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a great weekend.